our Monday night show. It's the Meldon Law Monday show, and coming up just a second for Shane Matthews standing by live from out in Texas, and we've got a busy show. Frank Frangie will be on with us, also Franz Beard. We got lots to talk about with the baseball team. Lots of stuff going on tonight right here on the Buddy Martin Show. Stay tuned. Shane Matthews is next right here on Meldon Law Monday, the Buddy Martin Show.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. The program is heard 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, right here on this channel. And we've got lots to talk about tonight, including the events of the weekend, baseball, basketball, my goodness, the combine, and, of course, always football now, especially when we got spring football, including the XFL. And one of the coaches is here, as a matter of fact, Shane Matthews from the Orlando Guardians, and a tough loss by 1 point. Shane, good evening to you. Welcome to the show, and tell us what happened over the weekend.
Well, buddy, we lost the football game. Pretty much dominated the game. It was a low-scoring defensive battle, but had the ball most of the game. And unfortunately, our running back fumbled twice inside the 25. Once that cost us a minimum of a field goal attempt, and it gave them a field goal. So just one of those tough breaks. It is what it is. You just keep plugging away.
Understood. And well, we miss you here, and we miss your show. By the way, are you on tomorrow?
I'm trying to work on it. I was on live today. I'll be on the rest of the week tomorrow. Okay. It's kind of up in the air.
Well, I'll wait to hear from you. All right, let's talk about a couple of things. And believe it or not, Gator fans won't like this, but I'm going to talk about golf first thing tonight. Well, you didn't get to see much of it probably, but I thought the Bay Hill was fantastic. And I even to a point where the LIV actually made it better because of the group and the strongest field ever. And, of course, the young Asian won it, coming back to win. And we had all the big players in the hunt. It was wonderful. Did you see any of it?
I didn't get to see yesterday. I watched pretty much all the tournament on Saturday on TV. And, yeah, it was great to see. It was the best field they've ever had there at Bay Hill. And, you know, Kitayama, who played college golf at UNLV, who actually was coached by the Gator golf coach, J.C. Deacon, out at UNLV. So it was good to see him win. I love how difficult they set the course up. And it gets a little more fun this week when they head over to TPC.
Yes, it does as well. Well, I want to talk to you about a subject we've talked about probably way too much, and Gator fans get a little tired of it too, I'm sure. But fact is, it's a national story right now, and in what's happened at the Combine, as you predicted, the measurables would be remarkable, and Anthony Richardson would blow everybody away, and he did just that. and I don't mean to say this translates into being a great quarterback. I think it's just the fact that it's so amazing that we have seen this guy, and we think back what could have been. And you and I have discussed this 1,000 times, and the story's not going to be any different. It'll all be dependent upon whether he can develop as a quarterback. But since you're in the professional game now, I know there's a lot of talk about it. People must ask you about it, about Anthony Richardson and his freaky talents. What do you tell them?
Well, I tell them what I believe and what I've seen since I saw him and coached against him in high school. Phenomenal athlete. Can he turn into a great quarterback? Time will tell. The track record says probably not. He's going to do certain things extremely well, but it comes down to accuracy, anticipation, decision making, processor information, all that kind of stuff, and we'll see. Um, like I said, I like Anthony a lot. I think he's got a huge upside, but those things are what makes a quarterback. We all knew that he was going to blow it away. Not one thing surprised me at all, what he did at the combine. Having said that, it's great that he did it, but buddy, none of that has anything to do with playing football. That's what's crazy.
Yeah, I kind of likened it, and we won't dwell too much on this. I want to get your thoughts. Starting with a new tight end coach today off the staff, and elevated him, and still no wide receiver coach, and people are wanting to know. I'm sure you haven't been around it much lately, but in case you got any comments about that. But I will say that, as I told Frank Franchi, who's on the program tonight later on, regardless of all the things, and he says the same thing you do, that the guy has unbelievable measurables, but it doesn't translate to how good of a quarterback, and we know that he's going to be. But there's greatness in there, and I don't know if I'll ever see it out of him as a pro, but just to think about the fact this guy was a quarterback on a team that went 6-7. I know all the problems. I know all the situations. I'm not blaming Billy Napier, who I like as a coach, and you too. I said to Frank, it's like almost like if you were in Jacksonville and you got a chance to, hear Leonard Skinner and back in the days and when they were not so famous, and then one day it became Leonard Skinner, do you think, man, what did I miss? And so that's the question I keep raising, that will we look back on this in 10 years, as Frank says, you can't tell for 10 years, and say what might have been with Anthony Richardson?
Well, that's the case. It comes down to winning games and playing. That position is so scrutinized, and I know people get on me about it, but as I've told you, buddy, didn't win a whole lot of games in high school, didn't have a winning record as the quarterback at Florida. I mean, like I said, I'm not taking shots. I'm just stating what the facts are. And, people talk about development. I understand that word is misused, I believe, so much, because there's a point where it doesn't matter if you're an athlete or whatever profession you're in. There's a point where you hit your ceiling. You know what I mean? You may never, you can practice, you can train, you can read books, you can do, but you may never exceed where you are now. Not saying that's the case here, but I'm just saying, as I stated, that we talked about, people were going to get so excited after the combine, whether it's Anthony Richardson, whether it's Bryce Young, whether it's whoever it is. It could be a defensive lineman that blew away all the measurable type stuff there. We don't know if that's going to translate ever to the next level, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does, Shane. Of course it does. And you know the position better than anybody. You would know that.
Well, I mean, I'm no guru, trust me, but
you are.
I've seen multiple guys at that level, and I saw somebody sent me a tweet. They screenshot it and sent it to me and wanted my thoughts on it. I don't have it in front of me, but it was something about Richardson has the speed of Lamar Jackson, the arm strength of somebody, the accuracy of Drew Brees, and the game-winning something of Tom Brady or something. I was like, where do these people come up with
and
this?
able to leave buildings in a single bound, as I might add, too. So just so you know that. Yeah, crazy.
I'm pulling for Anthony. I don't even know where the draft order. I think the Bears had the first draft pick, but it'll be great for him to go. Hopefully, he'll go to a good situation for him where he can learn.
Yeah.
Again, now he can learn, but will that translate to playing the position? Because it just you got to be able to make decisions and do all this in a fraction of a split second of time.
Yeah.
With people with 300 pounders that can run, that are beating down your throat. So
for sure.
It was a great story, and congratulations for what he did.
Yeah, as I wrote in my notes, the hottest thing coming through Indianapolis since Helio Castroneves set the record at Indy 500 at 190 miles an hour. He had a phenomenal week. No question about that, and that will always be. Shane, let me do this. I know you're going to go, but I want to get this our sponsor in for you quickly and tighten them, or I will come back with a final thought, all right? Stand by, sure. Shane Matthews.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, thanks very much, Jeff Cardoza. So I heard him a little baseball of the weekend. And thanks to Titan MRI, sponsor of Shane Matthews on this Monday. All right, final thoughts as we get ready. I know you don't know enough, you don't have any information, but names are being tossed around like Ike Hilliard, wide receiver coach, whatever. Who would you like to see become the wide receiver coach at Florida?
Whoa. I thought last week I'd heard Jeff Scott and Dallas Baker's name.
Yeah, Dallas Baker. Yeah, that's name would be.
Yeah, I don't see Dallas Baker. I think he does a really good job, but I don't think he'll be the guy. I still, for whatever reason, I still think it's going to be Jeff Scott. Okay. They have a great relationship from Clemson. He's a former head coach, as we know, down at South Florida. I think he's a pretty good recruiter. Yeah, Ike Hilliard would be great. But again, I know Gator fans get excited when there's always the former player's name being thrown around. But you got to remember, it usually goes back to where do these guys coach together, what kind of relationship they have.
Yeah, or as Coach Spurrier said, who's cheap and available.
Cheap and available. Always good. I don't know if any coaches are cheap and available.
Not anymore. That's the truth, man. Finally. All right, Shane. Very good. And then who you guys got? Who the Guardians got this weekend?
We're at home against the Houston Roughnecks.
Okay, again, yeah.
Should be a good.
Shane, it's great to hear from you, man. We miss you. Good luck and bring home a victory this weekend, will you?
We'll try, buddy. Appreciate it, my man. Take care.
Shane Matthews, listen to him in the mornings. He's on most mornings on Facebook Live on Pot Up with Matthews. It's a good show. It's a lot of guests. All right, so let's go through this. We've got Frank Frangie. He's got some interesting things to say, you Gator fans. We're going to talk mostly about college football. Now, by the way, this week we got a terrific lineup of people. It's college football. Tony Barnhart will be here on Wednesday. We've got Chris Herrick talking hoops, basketball. Gators play Thursday at 1 o'clock in Mississippi State in the SEC. What a big win for them against LSU. Lots of good guests. So stand by for Frank Frangie after this message from Meldon Law, sponsor of Meldon Law Monday. I know you have 25th anniversary of your Scholar Athlete. Maybe you ought to bring back some of your old musical buddies and put on a 40th anniversary of your music career and bring it back to the Southern Music Hall. That'd be a great reunion.
Well, actually, we did that, buddy, at the Matheson Museum in Gainesville for the next 9 months. The whole museum is turned into a retrospective of the Great Southern Music Hall. It's an interactive, beautiful photographs by famous photographer John Moran, written by a very fine journalist named Bill DeYoung, who was the entertainment editor for
Know him well and used to work with him.
Okay, so this exhibit is top notch. We hired a professional graphic designer to come in from Orlando, and it's free. Go to the Matheson Museum. It'll take you down memory lane. And what's really cool, we have all the artists listed and pictures and stories, and there's a QR code by each of the artist's picture. And you can you put your phone up there and you'll hear a song by that artist.
See, two great minds thinking alike. The only problem is you already had the idea. And I'm just remembering we talked about this once before. Well, that's great. Thanks for all the musical heritage you brought. If you want to go back deeper, next time we'll talk about way back to the era of Bo Diddley and other musicians in the area who came from around here. Gainesville and Ocala and North Florida has some fantastic musicians and over the years. And thanks for doing your part to help preserve it, Jeffrey.
Well, thank you very much, buddy. It's a labor of love.
All right, Meldon Law, they're litigators. Check them out. They don't back down. Thanks, Jeffrey. A pleasure to welcome back friend Frank Frangie, who's got a minute, and that's about all because he's so busy with his station job at 1010XL. Of course, he's the voice of the Jaguars It's been an amazing season all the way around. But we're going to pause for 1 second, Frank. And first of all, good evening to you. Good to have you on the show. And I'm looking at Anthony Richardson. I'm thinking, this freak is beyond anything I've seen in a Gator football uniform. I know you are too. And you were at the combine last week. What he did up there this past week, I mean, I'm not a combine guy. You follow it closer than I do. I mean, how great, how bombastic was Anthony Richardson?
Well, he was great, and I think everybody expected that. Everybody knew he would crush the combine. So his numbers were off the chart. His broad jump, his vertical jump, he ran a 4.43 40. He's got that rifle arm. And I think where he impressed people even more than that, but it was in the interviews. He's such a down-to-earth guy. He was so good on the board when they put him on the board. I heard people say it's one of the best quarterback interviews they'd had. Mm-hmm. So he crushed the combine, and everybody knew he would. And he's such a great kid. I think everyone was rooting for him too. So all that was good. Now, you know as well as I do, the combine doesn't tell whether or not you're going to be a good football player. Mm-hmm. The combine tells whether you can run fast and bench press a lot and jump really high. The question becomes, will he be a good football player at the next level? And I still think there's some debate about that. But as far as what he did at the combine, he was great. And everybody knew he would be. All of us knew. Maybe some of the league didn't know. But all of us that have watched him knew he'd be really good at the combine.
Frank, isn't that the conundrum? I mean, you are a big football fan. You're also a Gator fan. You watch this. I don't have to tell you the history of quarterbacks at Florida. The thought that the guy who comes through here now, let's just say Max, all right, he was everything they said, and he was successful as a football player and quarterback in the National Football, gets picked in the top 10, etc., has a great career. Now, I know it doesn't always translate, but it's just the conundrum of he comes through here as one of the greatest players in the NFL, let's just say, quote unquote, and yet they can't even have a winning season with him. Now, I know that's not necessarily translatable, but just your thoughts about that.
Well, that's a better question, buddy, 10 years from now, if he becomes that great quarterback you're talking about. It's a better question then than it is now. Right now, he's a guy that had great traits as a college quarterback, but also was a low percentage passer, missed some open throws, didn't see some things, didn't have a great knack for playing the position. That's just reality. I'm rooting for Anthony. But we watched every game. I watched every play like you did, and he didn't always have a great knack for playing the position. So now he had drops and he had bad things happen around him. So he's got to be that great quarterback first. If he becomes a great quarterback in the NFL, and it could happen, and I hope it happens, then people look back and say, why didn't it happen in Florida? Well, there's a myriad of reasons. Number one, he never convinced Dan Mullen that he should be playing for stuff he didn't practice. Number two, when Billy Napier got here, it was a brand new regime, not a lot of good receivers. The defense wasn't very good, so you're having to keep up. There's a lot of reasons why you could be better at one level than the other. But I'll caution you again, and I'm rooting for him. Running really fast and jumping really high and having a rifle arm doesn't make you a good quarterback. What makes you, those things are important. Buddy, what makes you a good quarterback is getting in that pocket and having the knack of knowing what to do and when to do it, and it happens really fast. Can you hit the open guy? Can you say, no, that guy's not open, get to my second progression, get to my third progression? Know when to throw it out of bounds because nobody's covered. Know when to tuck it and run. There's a knack and an instinct. There's instincts to playing quarterback. Instincts. And those instincts are more important than all that other stuff. My friend Shane Matthews, who does podcasts here with you guys, couldn't run out of sight in a week. Played quarterback at 170 pounds, wasn't very fast, couldn't bench press a whole lot, but he had an incredible knack of knowing what to do and when to do it. Danny Werfel had one of the weakest arms we've ever seen in college football, for being honest, but he had a knack of knowing when to do and what to do it. Well, the same thing happens in the NFL. Now, the arms are stronger, the bodies are bigger, it moves faster, but the guys with the knack know what to do. Brock Purdy was the last pick in the draft last year, buddy, and had he not hurt his elbow in the NFC Championship game, they might have been in the Super Bowl. So does Anthony develop the knack of knowing what to do? And I hope he does. And he might, by the way. He's a great kid. He listens. He works hard. He studies. He's smart as heck. He may develop that knack, but that stuff's way more important at playing quarterback than how fast you run or how high you jump. It really is.
All right, I'm going to give you a couple of real bad metaphors, okay? You know how I am about talented people in my business, in our business. You're a former reporter and writer, and I always saw something special in you. Not that it matters, that's just me. When you see a young prodigy, you see a player, you see a guy, you see a young, Tim Tebow we knew was going to be great, period. But when you see that person that not everybody sees right away, and you think, wow, what if this guy was Max? What if he was everything? I'm saying to you, do you think that Leonard Skinner, the first time they played, they sounded great? No. But if I said to you, have you ever heard of Leonard Skinner? Yeah, I have. Yeah, how great was Leonard Skinner the band? Unbelievable legacy, etc., etc. The thought that Leonard Skinner would have passed through Jacksonville without you ever knowing how good they were, does that bother you? I mean, it bothered me. Think they're right here and they're great. And there's this greatness that you're seeing in front of you thinking, I see this. I know it's there. How you get it out of him, I know it's all about timing and coaches and players, whatever. I just hate to see a missed opportunity where one of the greatest quarterbacks, and I'm not saying he's going to be, if he is, passes through here, Florida looking for a quarterback, had a drought except for Trask. Let's be honest about it. It's been a long time. And say they couldn't find a way to get their arms around it and couldn't get him on the field. That's what coaching's about. And I love Billy Napier, but that still is going to be a question until we find out that answer.
Yeah, and I'm going to stand my ground on this one, buddy. That's not a question until he's done it in the NFL, bro. That's not a question for today. The question for today is, how good is he? And right now, how good is he as a guy with He played some great games at Florida. He single-handedly beat Utah. I mean, that and Amari Burney picking off the pass, I guess. He kept him in a game against a good Tennessee team. He kept him in a game against a good FSU team. And if the defense had been better, they'd have won both of those games. So he had a good career at Florida. But before you say why was he great there and not great here, he's got to be great there. And for me, when I can't ask that question, buddy, until I see that happen. I can't ask that question because right now all I know is he runs really fast and jumps really high and has a rifle arm. And we'll see if that. I hope it does. I'm not a doubter. I'm just saying you can't answer that question. I won't answer it until I see what he does at the next one.
I hear you. But by the way, I won't be around for that. Be sure to say I told you so. All right.
I will.
All right. So let's talk about Billy Napier for a second. I get the question. You get the question. I don't know what's happening. What's Florida going to do? How patient can they be? I was asked over the weekend on a national show about how long does he have. I don't know, but I think Billy's going to be fine. It's going to take a while, take a minute. Gator fans have got to learn patience, something they haven't been good at for a while. But there's also that diminishing returns thing. What does Billy Napier have to do now and the next year to secure that position and give Gator fans confidence he is the right guy for the job? Because I think he is, but it's not me you got to convince. And you?
I think he's the right guy too, but I'm going to give you a wordy answer to that question. First of all, what are we doing, buddy? Not you and me and Gator, not just Gators, everyone. What are we doing when 13, 14 months into the guy's job, we're asking if he's the right guy? He just freaking got here, man. He inherited a job that was broken from a coach that didn't recruit great, good play caller. And we said he's got to rebuild it. He's got to, and now 14 months later, people are saying, is he the right guy? What are we doing? So I think, I don't know if he's the right guy, but I sure as hell know we don't know yet. So my guess is in today's day and age, you win with recruiting. I don't think Josh Heupel might have changed the thinking a little bit, but rarely do you out X and O anybody anymore because they're all good at X's and O's, buddy. They all know the spread offense. They all know how to defend it. All the coaches are good now. Not as good as each other, and some are better than others. But you don't win with X's and O's. You win right now by getting really good players and getting in a culture where you develop them. That's how you win. That's how you win.
True. True. Now, you said it, not me. The world we live in today, it's not the same. Like, I'm the old guy. I'm the get off the lawn guy. You're the young guy, whatever. Bottom line is that this whole dynamics, the paradigm has changed completely. I'm rooting for you. I'm with you. I'm hoping that we get back to core values. But this is not the world we're in. I heard someone say the other day, the new AD, they don't come out of football. They come off Wall Street.
Yeah.
They're all money guys. They crunch it. Frank, it's all about the money. The SEC is going to get $69 million per team when this whole thing comes together. And now you got to produce, and you got to produce now. It's not me saying it or you saying it. It's the economics of it, Frank. You can't have 5 years.
Well, no, and I don't expect 5 years. And you're right. The world has changed. Let me go to Kirby Smart for a second. Kirby Smart got there first 2 or 3 years. Well, he faked a punt. That wasn't a very good idea. He never knew how to handle his quarterbacks. That wasn't very good. people question him as a coach. But you know what happened, buddy? He kept recruiting and recruiting and recruiting and recruiting and recruiting, just like Nick had. That's why Nick won 5 titles in 8 years or whatever it was. Think about this with Georgia. 2 years ago, they won the national title, buddy. They won their first one in many years. The whole dang team went to the NFL. They all went. I mean, it was a mass exodus. You know what happened? They won it again. And that was just at the combine. They had 13 guys or 12 guys at the combine. The whole team's going to the NFL again. And they may win it again because they're getting more good players and developing those players better than anybody else. Kirby Smart is not winning because he's calling the draw play at the right time or the post corner like Steve Spurrier used to do or knowing when to blitz. Kirby Smart isn't winning because he knew when to blitz. They all know when to blitz. He's winning because he's got more players and does a better job of developing those players than anybody else. So to that end, I think Billy Napier will do that. I think that we've already seen the signs. This recruiting year was what, 10th or 12th in the country? Not bad. He went and got a bunch of defensive linemen and fast receivers. What did Florida
offensive linemen? Don't forget, I got a name for them. The I-75 Road Graders, GRATOR. It's the big guys. They're going to run the football, Frank. You know.
He got a lot of offensive linemen in the portal, but he got defensive linemen in recruiting. And he got wide receivers.
True.
I think he's going to bring in good players. So we'll see. I'm weirdly confident that Billy Napier will make them good sooner than you think.
Okay, I think you're right, but I got to see it. The fans got to see it. Yeah. And by the way, speaking of which, here we are now, not even in the spring ball. And by the way, the first practice was Saturday. And now they're making staff changes. He lost his defensive coordinator and wide receiver coach and tight end coach. Boom. Is that because the NFL now has hired a bunch of college coaches? You can make more money in college, but you got to work 365, Frank, in the recruiting. What is going on there with that? Yeah. And do you know anything about the new defensive coordinator, and what do you think?
I know the new defensive coordinator is in his 20s. That's how the world's changed. He's 29 years old. I don't. And look, losing 3 coaches is not ideal. I'm not connected enough, buddy, to know why that happened. Mm-hmm. What I do, and I don't think college coaches work harder than NFL coaches. What I do think is they have to work differently. They have to recruit. They have to manage NIL. And I think that's chasing some guys out of college football. I'm not making an excuse. Mm-hmm. Losing 3 guys right before spring practice is too many. Mm-hmm. And I Billy Napier would tell you that. Part of it is he's got good coaches. Mm-hmm. If you don't have good coaches, nobody's trying to hire them.
Very good
so I think that's part of it. I don't think Dan Mullen had as good a staff as Billy Napier, and therefore nobody was coming along trying to hire anybody off of Dan's staff. Mm-hmm. I think people are trying to hire. They're trying to hire guys because he's got good coaches. But no, that's not ideal. I don't think there's any in any world in which it's ideal. I do think NIL, the changing face of college football, is chasing people to the NFL. I do think that, and NFL staffs are getting bigger than ever before too, and there's more money. But as far as specific, that's a general comment. Mm-hmm. As far as specifically, I couldn't tell you more about why Piegler and Tony left or Kerry Colbert left. I don't know well enough to know.
Yeah, good points. I will say that I like the Corey Raymond move. I think it should have happened to begin with. I thought he should have been in charge of the secondary. I don't know about Tony yet. I haven't heard that much good about him. I know everybody talks about how great he is, but what I saw on the field wasn't a whole lot better than what Mullen had at some point. So that's got to get better. And I think Corey Raymond's a heck of a receiver. He made LSU DBU, and I think it's a good move to have him there. They'll hire somebody else, obviously. Any idea on any job, any potentials? Well, receiver coaches, like you hear Ike's name mentioned. You hear people's names mentioned. What do you hear about that and the coaching? You have any ideas, any guesses, any thoughts? Is Hilliard going to come on?
I would be guessing. I don't know. I would do just like you guessing. I like Ike. He's a really good NFL coach. Most recently, he was at Auburn, so he coached in the college realm. When I think of Ike, I think of an NFL coach because he did it so long in the league. Mm-hmm. My guess is, and I'm guessing, I don't pretend to know, Billy's MO has been to hire young, up-and-coming coaches, not veteran coaches who have been around. Mm-hmm. If you look at his staff, it's a lot of young coaches, energetic coaches, but not a lot of older veteran guys that have bounced around. So he's hired some NFL guys. He hired a lot of guys out of the NFL. Rob Sale among guys that have been through a number of cycles. But I don't know. I don't know who he's going to hire, and I'd be taking a wild guess at that. Yeah. He'll have that staff put together in the next 2 or 3 days. He's made the point that early in spring practice he'll have some answers on all of that, and I would think he will.
We're all taking guesses. We don't know very much. It's a different day out there trying to learn things. Sir, I've talked to you for 15 minutes about college football, although you do a show there in 1010XL, and you're very close to the Gators. Your job is, of course, announcing for the NFL. So I'd be remiss not to get into that a little bit. Trevor Lawrence, what a terrific year last year. Was exciting and different. What's ahead for the Jaguar fans?
I think in the 28 years there's been a team here, and in my now 10 years of being the play-by-play guy, I'm coming
10 years?
This will be my 10th year.
Wow.
But it goes fast, doesn't it? I don't ever remember the arrow for the Jags pointing up as much as it is right now. I think there's more positive momentum. I mean, they got to the final. 2 years in a row, they had the first pick in the draft, which means they were the worst team in the league. And this new guy, Doug Peterson, comes in and develops Trevor Lawrence, and the next thing you know, they make the final 8, okay? They made the Elite 8 of the NFL. Virtually everybody's going to be back. It's a young team. Young teams tend to progress more, grow more than veteran teams because there's a ceiling that is higher. I think everybody is really excited about where this thing's going. They're by far the team, the best, the pick to win the division. The division now is wounded a little bit. The Colts and the Texans don't know their quarterback. The Titans have gotten older. I think the arrow is really pointing up. And buddy, you would love these guys. You would love Peterson. He's down to earth. He's grounded. Trevor Lawrence is the same way. In 2017, we were good. We won the division. We're one game for the Super Bowl. But there were divas on that team. There wasn't a great quarterback on that team. This team's got a great quarterback and not a lot of divas. The arrow is really pointing up for the Jags.
I love Peterson's game, how he calls the game. Really impressive. I like what he does, how he handles his quarterback stuff. All right, Frank, one more I got to ask you about. Kyle Trask. He's sitting there. He's paid his penance. He's sat in mothballs. And here it is. He's probably going to get a chance, or maybe not. Depends on what falls at the back of the turnip truck and if the NFL can get a better quarterback. I mean, you can't help but root for Kyle Trask, what he did at Florida. By the way, a guy who should still be commemorated by an award that says rescue, the guy who rescued, first responder award, Kyle Trask. Yeah. What he did should always be remembered, and I'm rooting for him to make it in Tampa Bay and get a job there and be able to play for 10 years. What do you think?
He is the opposite of Anthony Richardson.
There you go.
Opposite. He's not going to run very fast. He's not going to broad jump very far. He's not going to vertical jump very high. His arm's good, better than average, far from great. He's the opposite of Anthony Richardson. The two guys could not be more opposite, other than the fact that they're both good guys and hard workers and well-liked and good teammates, and they're tall. But other than the fact that they're tall and really good guys, they're opposite. But you know what he has? He has the knack. I think he's going to be good. The question is going to become, is his lack of athleticism and average arm going to keep him from being great? That's the question you're going to ask, because it's a good arm, not a great arm, and he's not very athletic. But as far as putting the ball where it needs to be, the knack, the accuracy, knowing what to do, when to run, when not to, when to throw it away, I'm surprised. What cost him or helped him, because he was under Tom Brady, is he happened to be drafted to the team that brought in Tom Brady. So once that happens, you can't evaluate him. Because you're not going to make him the backup because you're trying to win the Super Bowl. So you're going to get a veteran guy like Gabbard who should be the backup, because if there's a twisted ankle and you got to play for 2 or 3 games, you'd rather have a guy that's played than a rookie. So he was never going to get a chance. Now that all that's gone, he's getting a chance to play. And I think I can't wait. I'm a big fan. I can't wait to watch him. He doesn't have the vertical and the broad and the 40 and the rifle, but boy, does he have a knack for knowing how to play. And I think he's going to be pretty good.
He is opposite, just like you. You're opposite me. We used to be alike. You dress a lot better than me now.
You taught me how to dress. That's not true. I've learned everything I learned. Kidding me? I still wear khakis all the time. That didn't change.
Love the shirt. Last one. Arnold Palmer. You knew him a little bit. You knew we had mutual friends. He's been gone a long time. His legacy now, these new formats of these designated events. Bay Hill was a remarkable tournament. And the LIV, which has been the evil empire in golf, as you know, really has made it better. And the closest of the players, the quality of that board, the final way the young man came back and won after almost gagging. It was wonderful golf, Frank. And speak to the legacy of Arnold Palmer. I think he gets bigger by the year, although he's been gone a while.
Yeah, here's what's happened with golf. And the players, the PGA Tour is based here. The Players Championships next week, so we're around it an awful lot. You've forgotten more about golf than I'll ever know, so you're way more of an authority on this than I am, buddy. But I will give you my take on it. Golf, the romance of golf, when you covered it, when I was starting to cover it, when you kind of showed me how to cover it, was there were 4 or 5 guys each era that people fell in love with. And there weren't too many. Now there are so many good players. There's so much greatness on the tour that it's hard to embrace one guy for any period because he gets replaced by the next guy.
And that's the truth.
And that's great. That's how good the game has gotten. But Palmer and Nicklaus and Tom Watson weren't going to get replaced in 2 or 3 years by anybody else. They were going to be the best players in the sport for 15 years. And other than Tiger, we haven't had that. And so I think we've lost.
Great stuff there by Frangie. Frank Frangie, always good to have him on. And waiting in the wings is the anointed one, the Iron Duke, who's got a lot to talk about tonight, not the least of which was an impressive performance by the Gator basketball team. I didn't see it coming. And my guy, Riley Kugel, is everything I thought he might be, and even what Franz Beard thought. Let's take it evening to the Iron Duke, Franz Beard. What's up, Francis?
Another day in paradise, buddy.
Well,
got my haircut.
Look at you. Look at you, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great. The golden locks, or rather, the turning gray locks have been trimmed.
I think it's more like gray locks, but that's okay. It looks good on you. Well, no wonder you had such a long weekend. My gosh, how many sports can one guy cover in a weekend?
Well, I was at 3 baseball games, caught the end of a basketball game because I was over at the baseball game, and watched the gymnastics as it was watching a baseball game and watching gymnastics at the same time, and getting home for the last part of it. That was a trip, and keeping up with the softball team. Just another day here in paradise, buddy.
That's why they call you the hardest working man in show business, right there. And of all the things this weekend that happened, I mean, the 2-game series win, 2 wins over Miami, and a really brutally rivalrous weekend. Boy, let's talk about some bad blood. Miami and Florida. In that game, that long Saturday, we waited for that game to be over. You did. And then the basketball team, which played extraordinary. I didn't see that coming. And now people are saying, you know what? Maybe they got a long shot. I don't know about they go and win a couple in the SEC. Pick a topic you want to talk about first because you saw them all.
Well, let's talk about the basketball team because Colin Castleton, the coaches, named him first team All-SEC, which he deserved.
Congratulations.
They named Liam Robbins the Defensive Player of the Year, which I don't think he deserved. He's good, but I think Castleton struck fear into everybody he played. Robbins blocked a lot of shots, yes, but I don't think he induced the fear into opponents the way Castleton did, and Castleton has done for his 3 years at Florida. I think I hate to call it, an award for that you might get because you've been there a while, but
you mean like the Lifetime Achievement Award? You mean
Lifetime Achievement Award, whatever you want to call it. I was trying to hesitate using that because everybody uses that term, but he deserved it. He really and truly deserved it, and really and truly, I knew he wasn't going to get SEC Player of the Year because they were going to give that to Brandon Miller. Although I still believe that Brandon Miller should not have been considered for any award.
You think they should have sat him down permanently, or you think they should have?
Well, he got removed from the Wooden Award list. He got removed from that. And, Alabama could have gotten in front of that, buddy. All they had to do was say, look, we're going to sit him down, because Alabama knew what had happened. They knew it within 48 hours after the event. They knew exactly what happened. All they had to do was sit him for a couple ball games and then come out and say, look, we know that the prosecutor says that they can't prosecute him for anything. Bad judgment by a 19-year-old kid, and we're going to go ahead and play him. But he's learned a valuable lesson. If they had done that and gotten out in front of this, nobody would have, people may have said, well, gee, a young woman is dead because of what he did and all this other stuff. But Alabama would have covered its butt, and they didn't. And instead, you got Greg Byrne looking like the absolute dip, of athletic directors. I think Greg Byrne, of course, as I was told by somebody this weekend, Greg Byrne is nothing more than the official mouthpiece of Nick Saban.
Which, well, who isn't? Who isn't? Everybody is.
Yeah.
All about a Nick, so that's how it is. And
by the way, did you happen to see the funny that Nick said to Sports Illustrated? Nick actually said something funny.
I don't know. No, I must have missed it.
He said, we're going to have to play Tennessee, Alabama, and LSU every year. Well, guess what? They've done that every year since 1964. So, gee, Nick.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the only thing I can guess is that Nick was trying to be humorous, in his own sort of Nick way. But the basketball team, 12 down, they win by 12. Riley Kugel, I'm telling you what, the kid is growing. He's not a kid anymore. He is a man. And he's 6'5", 207 pounds, a 48-inch vertical jump. He can outjump anybody on this basketball team. I mean, he can fly. David Thompson had a 48-inch vertical. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about a guy that's got David Thompson kind of hops, and which is pretty remarkable. I covered every game David played for 2 years.
Well, I got him out in Denver when he was out there his final year. It's not the same thing, but he was amazing. At one time, the highest paid athlete in professional sports, believe it or not, back in those days.
What a good job Todd Golden has done in reinventing his team at a point where most coaches have no idea how to reinvent a team.
Really did.
I think it's a remarkable coaching job. Todd did not deserve to be the SEC Coach of the Year. Co-coaches were Buzz at Texas A&M and Jerry Stackhouse, both of whom deserve it. But I think special mention should be given to Todd Golden for reinventing his team.
No doubt.
On the fly. I think that says a lot about the future of Florida basketball.
Right. Speaking of which, they play Thursday at 1:00 against Mississippi State, and they win that game. What's the chances they'll get a little attention from the committee, or are they done?
The only way they make the NCAA is they got to win it. They have to win it. But I think if they were to win
2 games
Thursday, I think they make the NIT. I think if they win 2 games, they may even host an NIT game. And now, what is it going to take to win 2 games? That's going to be pretty dicey. I mean, that's going to be tough because you're playing the number 17. But think about it this. Florida is the number 8 seed. Now, I think if Castleton had continued to be able to play, I do believe that Florida may have had a chance to be a 5 or a 6 seed in the SEC. And I think they would have probably made the NCAA tournament. Without him, they had a couple struggles there. Had to figure some things out. But I think it's remarkable that they're 16-15. I think it's remarkable that they're now a team. I don't think there's anybody out there in the SEC tournament that really wants to play these guys. Remember what John Calipari said after he eked out a win against Florida here at the O-Dome a couple weeks ago. He said, those guys didn't quit. And trust me, he said, nobody is going to want to play them.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That time is now. I think he saw something with that diamond in one press. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to see the Gators run that diamond in one press until they run these other teams
Who's
out.
Who's the diamond in that, by the way? Just explain for us or not. Who's the diamond?
Well, a diamond, you have one
the
guy
shape
in
of the
front.
formation, I know it.
Yeah. basically, I think you had Kugel at the top of the top there.
Okay.
Typically, you want your most athletic guy. You want your you want your two forwards who are tall, who are really good jumpers.
On the wings.
You want them on the wings, because what you want the diamond guy, the tip of the diamond, what you want him to do is to force to either side and force a trap. Then you've got your guy at the back end of the diamond, and you've got your other guy to rotate, and you can get passing lanes. They caused LSU all kinds of havoc because LSU was coming down the court.
Couldn't get the ball down low. Every time we threw it down low, they lost the ball.
Yeah, they were bombing away down there. And see, the other thing that this does is you can play Jatobo there as your safety, or you can play a guy, I think that you can keep Jatobo out of more foul trouble by playing him in that role there as your safety guy on there, because you have your diamond and you have your one guy back at the back who's a safety. This is what UCLA ran when they had Hazard and Goodrich and those 64-65 teams, which were I thought absolutely brilliant. Brilliantly coached basketball teams, because
every Wooden team was brilliantly coached, so there you go.
But they had a 6'6" guy in the back. I mean, people don't realize that team won back-to-back national championships with a 6'6" center. And so that's what this kind of press can do for you, but you got to have athletes to do it. And you think about this, you got Kugel in there. You can put in Alex Fudge in there. You got Will Richard in there.
Richard's starting to play better, really a lot better. Hitting his threes. If he can hit his threes, it's a different game,
Yeah. Well, when Florida makes shots, it's a totally different game.
As you read,
because
numerous times in Gator Bait, you read that.
What they can do is they can spread the floor. The Gators can spread the floor. A guy that hasn't gotten not near enough credit is Kyle Lofton. Kyle Lofton, I'll tell you what, steady as a rock. Scored 16 points the other night. I think he had 5 assists. Had
a couple of great assists. A couple of great rebounds.
Yeah. A couple of really good defensive plays as well. A guy that I think really had to learn the players around him and stuff. We forget that at St. Bonaventure, he played with the same guys for 4 years. And he came here with a brand new lineup, and he had to learn.
Brandon, let me shift it over to football. A couple of questions have been passed along for you. One's on the screen about the stadium, which we'll talk about before we get out of here. And the other is, let's talk about any news or upgrades or updates on coaches. Florida got a new tight end coach today. They promoted from within.
I like him. I like him, Russ Callaway.
Yeah, and
he's a former Valdosta State quarterback. And he's a former Valdosta State quarterback who has coached. He's coached in the NFL. He's coached Division I AA. He's been he's been all over the place. He worked as a defensive analyst last year, and so I think that says a lot about him. He's a guy he's just a football guy, okay? And sometimes you just have to have a football guy, buddy. I mean, let's face it. Not everybody out there grew up being a coaching playing a certain position. I mean, look how many NFL head coaches really never played the game at all, but they're pretty good football coaches because they're football guys.
Belichick wasn't a player, so there you
go. He's done pretty well in his career.
I heard he did pretty good. Yeah.
Charlie Wise, who was, I think, a lousy head coach, but a brilliant offensive coordinator in the NFL when he worked for Belichick. Charlie Wise, I mean, you take one look at him, he never played. I don't even know if he played Pee Wee football.
I don't know if he played in mural football. Not my favorite coach, but anyway, yours either.
Let's move on. Good offensive coordinator back when he was with Belichick.
Yeah, but not at Florida. He was not good. So
no.
Let's talk about, and this is going to take a little longer than we got tonight, but we'll broach the subject at least. Some people are asking, what can you tell us about the stadium upgrades? Now, we there's a couple questions that get asked every week, and one is the stadium upgrades, one's the permanent rivals, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of talk about the stadium upgrades. People speculate about it all the time. All I know is what little I've learned from talking to Scott Strickland and a few other people, which is not much, that there's definitely want to take it down, make it smaller, and make more luxury boxes. And Strickland told me, he said we have, and Chip Howard said that we have three options. We can basically use what we got and renovate it, or we can tear it down and rebuild it, or we can move off site. Those three options. That's just conversation. You've had a little conversation about this without getting into a deep dive on it tonight. Just try to answer some questions. What do you hear? What do you think? And what do you feel is going on there?
I think Florida's going to drop down from official capacity 88,000 something. I think Florida's going to drop down to about 82, 83,000. And what they're going to do is they're going to make, I think every seat's going to be a chairback seat, which they need to do that anyway. That's the stadium. I love the stadium, but it does need to be more fan friendly. You may even see them change. You can't exactly make the rows any wider because it just ain't going to work that way. That would take a whole lot more money than what they've got to the stadium. It's a steep. If people have never been there and never made that walk from the top down there, we used to have to run the stadium steps. When I was playing high school basketball at GHS, we'd have to run the stadium steps over there, and trust me, it's brutal.
They only had 20 in France, and you played 20 steps.
Yeah, well,
it's a joke. A little joke.
It wasn't as.
It's a long 20. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it was. But
never mind that. We used to have to walk it to get back up to the press box.
We had peach boxes. Back in the days when we had peach baskets, etc.
Yeah, right.
But the stadium is in need of an upgrade. It really is. Better seating will do something to help that. I know they want to put in some more luxury boxes, and I don't know. I don't necessarily know how they want to do that.
That's going to be what it's about. It's going to be all the rich people.
How are you going to be able to do that unless I think you could maybe do some of that in the south end zone, perhaps, enclose that a little bit. I'm just guessing.
Knock the press box down and put people underground, whatever. Yeah, it's a lot of things.
I think they'd love to get rid of the press, period.
Yeah, right. I mean, the bottom line is that there's parts of it need to be blown up, and something's going to be done. And look, it's just like the facility. They waited almost too late to get their facility. They finally got that. And now the stadium, you can't wait 20 years to change the stadium. You've got to start doing it now and start making a plan. And real estate's not going to get any cheaper. And anyway, so I don't.
Well, they're 20 years behind, and if they wait 20 years, they'll be 40 years behind. It has to be done now.
Yeah. Let's leave it up to the architects.
Let me throw one quick thing. I hope they'll spend some time at Auburn, and I know that Scott was at Auburn for a while, because I think that is the single most fan-friendly stadium in the SEC. Great sight lines, etc., like that. I know getting in and out of Auburn by car is a nightmare. We've done that, and it's no fun. But as far as the stadium itself, you have great sight lines. You have and everything like that. Big, wide concession stands that people can get to, etc. I think that's something along those lines would be very, very helpful.
Well, you better be careful because you got some big crowds coming, and those Texas boys start showing up. And Oklahoma boys are showing up. And this crowd's one of the 20,000 tickets, and it's all coming. And they're getting $69 million more per franchise at this point in time. And now, as we talked about the other night, the ACC is getting greedy. They want more, and they're 30% under what the SEC is getting. And so the money grab is just, it's monumental.
Well,
it's incredible.
You saw what FSU did. FSU saying, we want more from the ACC.
Yeah.
And you know what? The ACC is not going to give it to them.
They don't have it.
FSU saying, people are saying, well, we'll secede from the ACC.
And go
it's
where?
only $120 million.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? The SEC is not going to invite them. I guarantee you, Miami. We don't need Miami. We do not need Florida State. People say what?
Clemson would be a team you would have, I think probably.
You may want to have them, but guess what? You're not going to take them.
Yeah.
Sankey is happy. He's got a 16-team league.
Yeah.
He's got an ideal scheduling situation here, where you're going to play 3 permanent opponents, and then you'll play every single team home and home every 4 years.
Right.
You'll do that. It's the perfect scenario. It works for basketball. They got a few things to figure out about volleyball, since not everybody in the league plays volleyball. You're going to have to do something about baseball, because you got a 30-game SEC baseball schedule here. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do here? Right now, if you play 3 permanent, you play weekend series. So if you have 3 weekend series, you play 10 weekends a year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a real dilemma for baseball, and they're going to have to do something creative with that.
Right.
But football is going to be the 16 games. Teams are going to work perfectly. It's going to work perfectly for basketball as well. So people
we'll
need
talk
to
about
just
that
get used
football schedule and whatever on Thursday with our Orange and Blue Bloods with the guys. But meanwhile, let me do this for WinStar, and I want to go out with you talking about baseball. Bombs away. These Gator home run hitters are just tearing it up, and amazing. It's going to be this 5-game stretch. They're probably going to get another 50 home runs. Let me tell you about Red Star Medical Research. Proven reputation as a high-quality, patient-centered clinical research facility in Ocala, brings cutting-edge clinical research trials in areas like Alzheimer's, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, psoriasis, migraines, fibromyalgia, along with many other conditions that affect our community. Since their inception in 1998, RenStar has participated in more than 700 clinical research trials and continues to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the medical industry. Check them out. Go to renstar.net. You can be a part of some of the clinical trials. RenStar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Run ruled the Miami Hurricanes, friends. There was some bad blood. You talk about talking some trash, man. They were talking. You were there. Talk about it.
Oh yeah. Well, Miami was really chippy in the first inning of the first game, and they get a 3-run bomb. Yo-Yo Morales hit one into orbit and gives them a 3-0 lead. And from that point on, Brandon Sproat started leading with a changeup or a breaking ball, and then coming back at 97-98, and Miami just never adjusted. Hurston Waldrop. Now, Saturday, Hurston Waldrop had them under control. It was 6-0 there. And then all of a sudden,
man, sky fell.
The bullpen melted down, and if there is a question mark about this team, that's where it's going to be, the bullpen and the midweek starters, because between Sproat, Waldrop, and then Caglione, maybe as good a 3 starters as there is anywhere in the country. If they aren't the best, they're on the very shortest of short lists. Caglione yesterday was just absolutely brilliant. I mean, goodness, throwing 97, 98, and only gave up 4 hits, 1 run, only walked 1 batter. And this is a guy that hadn't pitched in 2 years. So pretty darn amazing. And the amazing thing also is every time Wyatt Langford sees a decent pitch, goodness, he absolutely hammers it. I mean, my goodness, he hit one. He hit one Sunday in the 8th inning when we hit 4 home runs and walked it off. 3 home runs, walked it off. His home run was like, whoa, serious tape measure stuff. Talk about a great story. I mean, This is a guy, and I keep coming back to this, buddy, but this is a guy that was the bullpen catcher 2 years ago. He got 4 at bats, and he goes up to the Valley League, which isn't even the best of the summer leagues, and plays first base and transforms himself. And he comes back, and Sully says, I didn't even recognize the guy. His body had changed so much, and he's continued to change it. He's turned into a really good runner. They don't even hesitate to put him in center field if they need to, because he can cover the ground. Good arm, and by golly, he can really hit the baseball. But they got people up and down that lineup that can hit. There's no shortage. They got a kid sitting on the bench, Luke Heyman. He's going to catch the weekday games against Florida Atlantic. But he's hit a couple home runs, couple of triples already, and he's just a true freshman. And he's going to be an absolute stud, because Riopelle, they want to play Riopelle at first base and DH Caglione ahead it, so that they don't want Caglione out in the field as much as he really, some might say he needs to be. I think he's going to be a big league hitter. As good a pitcher as he is, buddy, I think he's going to end up being a big league hitter. Because why do you want power? Why do you give a guy and you only play him once every 5 days, as opposed to you can put him in the lineup every day, and he can give you 40, 50 home runs a year. He's got Pete Alonso type of power. I mean, he's a big time player. But this is a team. If Sully can figure out and get these kids figured out what to do about the relief pitching. He's got one in Cade Fisher, who I thought was brilliant Friday night, and came in and got yeah. I mean, a lefty throws about 93, 94, but his ball just moves all over the place. I mean, he doesn't even really need to throw a breaking ball, because the ball just moves naturally. But he likes Neely, he likes Slater. So you got 6 pitchers there, and you need 3 more. There's just no way you can go through it.
Need bullpen pitchers for sure. Francis, great job, by the way. Great job this week. And we even Gator Bay always try to do that. He's almost here 2 nights a week. And you can see him and hear him almost any place on campus. France Beard, the Iron Duke. Thanks, Francis. Great job, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. France Beard wrap up the program. Thanks to our guests tonight, including Franz. And earlier we had Shane Matthews, Frank Frangie. Appreciate our sponsors, especially Titan MRI, sponsoring Shane. And, of course, it's Meldon Law Monday. Our good friends at Meldon Law, they're doing it right over there. And Red Star Medical Research. On behalf of them, I'm Buddy Martin. Have a great night. Tomorrow night, we're back with David Whitley and Cass right here on the Buddy Martin Show. Same time, same station.